10 p.m. with Galinsky. I'm super stoked and excited to be here. Woo! It's been a minute. And I've got a great guest tonight. I've got some great guests coming up in the next few weeks. And super excited. So if you see me looking to my left, it's because I'm looking at the chat. I've got three different chat windows open right now. I'm with the Rehearsal and Self-Tape Partners for Actors Group is streaming our show right now on Facebook. Thank you, Dylan Mooney, and Rehearsal and Self-Tape Partners for Actors, along with Actor Trade, who are sponsoring the show. And also we're being simulcast out of the Queens World Film Festival. Queens World Film Festival, their page as well. And of course, we're coming out of my page too. So enough of that. Let's bring in our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Arlook he's been in Hollywood for longer than he wants me to mention. He knows everybody. He's produced films. He's managed talent. He's been a lit agent. He's just an incredible guy, and he's such a sweetheart, and I'm so glad he's going to join us tonight. So please give me and him a warm welcome, Richard Arlook. Hey, Richard.
Hey, everybody. Hi.
Good to see you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
I was just telling my audience that if you see me look to the left, it's not because I'm not concentrating on you, or even to the right. I'm looking at three different chat rooms tonight. I'm trying to make sure I get everybody's questions in. So I'm my own engineer and all that jazz as well.
Great.
I got to tell you that there are a few people in the chat, and they love it if you say their names. So if you feel like shouting them out as well. Dylan Mooney's here with us. Katha Cato is with us.
Hi,
Mickey
Dylan.
Smith's join us.
Dylan.
Zulima, Tammy T.
I'd much better if we can go one at a time.
You don't have to say hi to everybody. Just throw one or two out every so often.
Hey, Zulima.
Yeah. Michael
Tammy.
Swissday. And Amy Alt, Nina Dicker. All right. I always like to start with something fun. We're going to get some of our questions from our audience in a few minutes, but I want to start with a photo that I dug up. I do my research on my guests, and I found this really interesting photo. I think our audience is going to like this too. Now, I see on the right, I don't know if it's left or right, but the guy with just the mustache, I recognize him. That looks like Geraldo Rivera to me, yeah?
Yes.
Right. And then the guy on the left, or the guy with the glasses and the beard, why that's Jerry Garcia.
It's definitely Jerry Garcia.
And the guy in the middle, who's that guy in the middle?
That's me at 19 years old. It's October, November of 1981. And that's in Chicago at the Tremont Hotel.
Incredible.
And it's a crazy story, but after my freshman year of college, my first internship was at ABC News. And it's a whole long, crazy story, but the bottom line is my sophomore year, when I was in Boston at Emerson, a producer from 2020 who I had interned for called me in a panic and needed me to handle something because he was running late to go meet Jerry Garcia to convince him to appear on a 2020 piece that Geraldo was doing. It was actually called Not Too Old to Rock and Roll. It was crazy because all these guys were 40 at the time, and that was ancient, for rock and rollers. And I was able to help out, and it led to me being invited to go help out on the actual shoot with them in Chicago. And after the show in the hotel, when Geraldo sat down with Jerry, there was like a little party after, and that's where the picture was taken.
So was that a harbinger of the fame and talent that you'd be in touch with for the rest of your life? Because you've been.
Oh, I don't. I'm just attracted to people who are really, really creative and talented, and it doesn't even matter if you're famous. But that was a pretty cool moment.
And we also have somebody else in common that I'm a beloved friend of mine, and I believe she's probably yours. And she was a guest on the show a month and a half ago. Pulling up a picture of her here with you. This is you and Kathy Eldon.
Yes. That's right. And that's Marty Cates, and that's Kwaku Mandela, Nelson Mandela's grandson, who was a very dear friend of Kathy's. And that was at, I think, the premiere in Toronto of the movie The Journey is a Destination, which I just have to assume Kathy probably really must have spoken a lot about that night when she was on, unfortunately. Yep. But yeah, I had the honor of not only getting to meet Kathy many, many years ago, but going on our own journey to get the movie made about her son, Dan. And probably one of the most amazing experiences of my life was getting to go to Africa, watch the movie being made. And probably one of the other greatest things was Kathy and I and her husband, Michael, got to spend a couple of days in Cape Town away from everything. And just to have those couple of days alone with them and get to travel with them and go to the Cape of Good Hope it's still like just one of the highlights of my life.
Well, I just dropped in our chat room, I just dropped Kathy's link, the link to Kathy's episode. So if anybody has missed it and wants to check it, the link is in the chat. After this show, you can go and watch Kathy. And so were you acquainted with Kathy before this, or did you guys come together for the film and become good friends after that?
Time we met, which probably was around 2000, I'm guessing, 2001, somewhere around there. I think Kathy had just moved to LA with Amy. The book was out, had been optioned by Columbia Pictures. And I was running the lit department at the Gersh Agency. And one of my clients was a really talented filmmaker by the name of Bronwyn Hughes, who had read the book, was obsessed with the book, and basically tasked me at all costs to figure out a way for her to be able to direct the movie. And there was some really strong competition, some really talented people. I think she was one of the last people that they met at the studio, and I'm sure she went in prepared. Her meeting came on the Monday morning when her movie Forces of Nature had just come out that previous week and was the #1 movie at the box office. And so I think the studio, having met a really talented director with a great take, who was passionate, who happened to have the #1 movie in the country, got her that opportunity. And then, then the world changed. Yeah. And we began this odyssey. It was a long one. But, at the end of the day, we went to Africa and we made the movie. And and Kathy's one of my closest friends, and I've got that, so.
It's a brilliant story, and her son, Dan, doing incredible work. Amazing work.
Yeah, it's inspirational.
Yeah, and the book's great. I've looked through his journal's amazing. What an artist! What an artist!
Yeah. For anybody viewing tonight, if they haven't seen the movie, it is called The Journey is a Destination. It's on Netflix, so take a look. Great,
and I just dropped creativevisions.org in the chat as well, because somebody asked where can we find this. So we got we got our first question. Before we do, Elizabeth Harder just joined us. Don Preston Cato is with us. John Baskin is with us. They're all filling up. Hi guys, great to see you all. John Baskin, I haven't seen him. He's a filmmaker. I haven't seen him in a long time. Keith Davis, Darlene Wade, good to see you guys. We got a question from Katha at the Queen's World Film Festival. What is your greater love, the written word or the moving image?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. And is it possible to kind of say I love apples and oranges? I mean, listen, there can be no moving image. Well, there can always obviously just be a moving image that is just a photograph, a series of photographs. But if we're talking about a great motion picture with a story and characters, you need a great script. So again, I can't. That's a great question.
Yeah.
And kind of I'm a little stuck on it, and I can't give you an answer other than I have such respect for talented writers and somebody who could. By the way, I have respect for anybody who could sit down and type out a 100-page script, no matter how good or bad. But I've got a real respect for people. I've read thousands of scripts, and not all of them, the majority of them are not that great. So when you read something that the voice is unique and the writing is special, it means a lot. But you could you know, you could take, I would also say that you could take an average script and pair it with a great filmmaker who can elevate that material. And I could also just say that you could have a great script, and in the hands of the wrong filmmaker, it's gonna, you know, it'll make it lousy. So to make a really great movie, there's so many variables that need to all come together. Every time I go to the movies and it's not always a great movie, I'm very, very forgiving, because there's just so many variables that have to just all come together just perfectly to make a great movie. But great question.
It actually is a great question, and your answer is great. Your answer covers a lot of questions that I actually had, because I wanted to get inside your mind a bit about what you look for and what makes you what appeals to you from that place. We got, and I'm just going to go right to the chat again because we've got more questions. And
keep them coming.
Keep them coming. Michael Swiskay, who is a playwright and a friend of mine, he said, "Alas, film productions are on hold. I suspect for a writer such as myself with 3 completed feature scripts to market now to agents and managers, they're spinning their wheels, as I believe nobody can or will consider new work now. Am I wrong?"
I mean, I don't, listen, it's a really difficult time. 300 people were furloughed today at CAA. I think 40 of them are agents. People are scared. My own business, you know, when the pandemic hit and the shutdown began, I had 5 major directors on a couple of movies, some very big streaming series, and they all came home. And at those companies now, the first thing is, as production is slowly resuming, and you know, it's beginning to slowly resume, I think first now in unscripted, and I know that there's been some pickups going and people are trying to finish things. But everybody, remember, before this began, people had invested millions of dollars on all sorts of existing, I have a number of projects set up at various television studios and regular studios. So they've spent a lot of money on those. And so the focus is getting them made, getting the other things finished. So I would say, in fairness, I've sold a few things. I've actually, today, I have a client who is out in the marketplace, and there's a bidding war happening right now between Netflix, Amazon, and Universal on a pitch. I would also say that this is an established writer. I would also say he has an established producer and 2 viable actors attached to it. So it makes it, and one of the actors actually has a deal at Amazon. So the elements make it sellable. I think, sadly, for the average person with just a great script and no bankable element, whether that's at the very least, a big producer who's got amazing contacts, or at least a director or a piece of talent, it's hard. It's very hard to get the execs and the other producers' attention right now, because they're also focused on getting what they had already sold, keeping that alive, and the stuff that was shooting, getting that back.
Gotcha.
So, it's not impossible, but you know, if I was to say what to focus on, here's the other thing. There's a lot of people who are sitting around with not much to do. So rather, if you've got a finished script, rather than just try to sell it, maybe now's the time to use whatever network and contacts you have to put that in the hands of a director or an agent for their client, opposed to just trying to sell it. You know, build value.
Great advice. This whole industry now is like, with that CAA announcement, is a real signal of how this is turning upside down. Mm-hmm. But I think there's, like you're saying, there is still opportunity. If you're a doer, you know, there is opportunity. There's still Netflix is a business, and I think you said this before when we were talking before the show, that is in a decent position, because people are still going to watch things from their computers, right? So
right, or their TV, you know.
They're going to need content.
Yeah, everybody needs content, and those who are sitting on tons of it are doing okay.
Yeah. John Harris just joined us. Good to see you, John. Chef Don Pintabona has just joined us.
Wow, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, well, he opened up Robert De Niro's Tribeca Grill among many other restaurants in New York.
Wow. Fan.
Right?
I'm a fan.
Lisa Marie Kehoe is with us. We got some more questions here. Welcome Denise Riddle and Stacy Stocker. What are some of the steps and or things that need to be in place in order to pitch a project to a network, i.e. name, actors, and money? And I'm asking a question which you just basically answered.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to add anything to that, but I think that is really...
Well, normally now, like if you are, assuming this person's a writer and they have an idea for a TV show or even a spec pilot, I would not go right to a network. You know, I would go to a television studio who is in a position to deficit finance, who might have a number of producers with these pod deals that they've already invested in that are looking for the material. And I would just again strengthen the package that way. Start with a strong producer, get a studio behind you, and then let the studio and that producer, you know, be the one to get your material, get your idea in front of the networks.
Gotcha. Speaking of people that can get things in front of people, you and I have a mutual friend, and he was on the show a few days ago, Mark Schoenfeld. And I got to read a quote that somebody posted after. First of all, Mark calls you his consigliere, as well as Steve Costa, who was the head of Revlon and actually discovered Natalie Portman, put her in the movie The Professional. Steve posted this quote about Mark on the site after watching Mark's episode, which, by the way, you can go back into the archive. But he wrote, "Many bring talent to the altar of Hollywood, but few can deliver the sermon to open its pearly gates." And then came Schoenfeld. What do you say to that?
Mark is here are this like words. You know, Mark is gifted. Mark is kind. Mark is relentless in the best way. The thing, I mean, Mark was smart enough. I heard he told the story about how he met me.
Yeah.
But obviously, Mark and I share a friend in Scott Prison, and so he had Scott, you know, introduce us, and that's all he needed to do. And the thing about Mark is, first of all, he's got excellent taste, and I think he just has a very unique. Mark has the ability to hear someone sing, speak to them, look at them, maybe a combination if they could sing, dance, whatever it is, act, but he understands what it takes, what that je ne sais quoi, that star element is. And the thing about Mark is, once he's a believer in your ability, then he's a pit bull. He's not going to let go. And if I needed somebody on my side to sell me and believe in me, and I knew in my heart that he believed in me that way, I just know, you know, he'll stop at nothing to make that person successful.
I agree with you. And the other thing about that is, I think his energy is contagious. It's a contagious feeling. By the way, the chat room now is blowing up with Mark Schoenfeld's name. He's got his fan. So there's another great question in here. Becky Hayes is asking. Becky Hayes wants to know, "I'd love to hear your favorite story of championing and fighting for a talent you believed in."
Oh, wow. I mean, there's a lot of them. I'm just trying to think of something maybe more recently. Probably I got a query letter. I mean, I get a lot of query letters, but I'd say probably 7-8 years ago. And by the way, I'm not a big fan of the query letters because I get so many of them. And the reality of it is a lot of them it's so obvious, the letter that I'm getting, that same person. Sometimes, by the way, sometimes I don't even say "Dear Richard" or "Dear Mr. Arlook." Sometimes they're just "Dear," you know, "Dear Manager," "Dear Agent."
Yeah, dear whoever can openly.
I don't even go beyond that. The best query letters are the people that have done their research and are able to kind of maybe cite an example of something you've done or I've done and figure out a correlation between them or my client's success and what they're doing, which is why they think we'd be a good fit. But I guess the last thing that's coming to mind, just because this is the guy who's got the bidding war going on now, is it was just somebody who sent me a query letter, and it just said, "Hey, I'm a first generation Korean American," and he told me his whole story, and he told me that he had written a spec about the little known, and he basically said Hillary and Bill Clinton are two of the most famous people in the world, but nobody really understands and really knows about their love story, about how they met at Yale Law School. And he just wrote something about what that story is, and that I was just compelled to want to read it. And I actually requested it. It was read by somebody who works for me first, who came and said, "You need to read it." And I read it, and I loved it. And I felt strongly enough to send it to a couple of big agents, and they all loved it. And he ended up with one agent. And the next thing, we ended up partnering with a very big producer, and there was a bidding war, and it ended up on the blacklist. The movie was Rodham. It's a blacklist script, which and it has not been made yet, but his career was born out of that. And I love those stories of just, I think as a rep, and I don't do it as much anymore as I used to when I was younger, out of necessity. Yep. Right now, especially now, I'm trying to kind of hold on to what I have and grow what I've already made successful, but I have other younger people do it. But it's a great feeling to kind of read something, discover somebody who's working, scooping ice cream, working at Starbucks, making minimum wage, and you just read something and it strikes a chord with you in a way, and then you have the ability to put it in different people's hands. The next thing, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you made their dreams come true. That's a good feeling.
Meeting you, I could feel that from the beginning when we first met, that there's this warmth that you have. And I feel like, I spent only a year and a half in Hollywood, but I met a number of people, high level, whatnot. And the thing that made it different for me with you is that as much as there was a professionalism and a get-go-ness and a discipline, there was a love that emanates from you. And I didn't get that from a lot of other people. And I feel like if somebody's one of your clients or you're working on a project, they're lucky, because they're not only getting somebody who's got this visceral go-getter, but you've also got a heart and love to see other people shine. And that's such a beautiful combination.
Well, thank you. That's a sweet thing. Thank you.
Patricia Whitcast is with us. Jeffrey Nunez is with us. Dorothy Edwards out in LA. Good to see you. Dorothy is with us. Scotty Clapson is with us. Scotty's got a great podcast. Scotty, put your podcast in the chat there. Nick Schiavone, who's a professional boxing referee, is with us, and I'm going to get him on the show at some point. And dear friend Becky Savell, good to see you out in Simi Valley. Victor Acevedo, we got another question here for you. I got a question for you. What did you do? What did you study in college? Does it relate to what you're doing as your career? A lot of people, study.
The answer is yes. Listen, I was very, very fortunate that at a very young age, I knew I wanted to do something in the entertainment industry. I think when I was 14, I wanted to be a rock star. I was in a garage band. The band broke up one day. 4 days later, they were rehearsing again, and I wasn't invited. That was my first reality check of, okay, maybe I don't have what it takes. That was their way.
You were with Jerry Garcia. What the heck, huh?
Years later. But I knew I wasn't going to be a rock star, but I started kind of booking bands for parties. And I think in the late 70s, I got Rolling Stone magazine, and there was a cover story about Lorne Michaels, who was probably 28 at the time and was probably near 2 or 3 of Saturday Night Live. And I grew up in Puerto Rico, and we had just gotten cable where we were able to get the NBC affiliate from the Virgin Islands. And I started watching SNL, and I read this article about how this guy was hired by NBC in his 20s to put together this cast and produce this show. And they talked about how the show was produced. And I just thought, wow, what a cool job where you get to work with all these talented people. You put them all together. You work with all these writers. Every week, a different major movie star or TV star gets to be the host, or somebody else from pop culture, and the biggest rock bands of the day were, like, how cool would it be to be that guy? And that's what got me going. And then as I started doing my research and thinking where I went to school, I heard about Emerson College in Boston, which not many people knew about, but its reputation was, as a freshman, they'd let you start using a camera as a freshman. All the other film schools, you had to study theory for a year or two before you started actually getting to make stuff. And so that's, and it was a 2-page application, and that's why I went to Emerson. What was the question though? The
question was, what
when I went there, I studied, my major at the time was called mass communication. I just studied TV production. I took film courses. I learned about media, and that's it. And
all right. I got to put the picture back up because those who joined us late didn't get to see this, and they're all chattering about Jerry Garcia with the beard, Geraldo Rivera with the mustache, and Richard Arlook at the tender age of 19 in the middle there. Just so you all know what I'm referencing.
ABC News 2020 shoot. Anyway. 2020
shoot. Katrina Del Mar just joined us. Hey, Katrina. Lisa Jo Barr is with us. Cameron Quinn Robles with us. Ava Ozuna. Oh, Ava Ozuna. Nice to see you. There's another question in here. Oh, Dylan Mooney wants to know, what instrument did you play?
I played, I'm a drummer. That was the first instrument I played, was drums. And then I started picking up guitar, and I'm a average musician. I love music. I'm really into music. I have a son who's a composer and a gifted musician who laughs at me, and I'm just jealous of him. He could just, I remember
they always do.
An uncle gave me a Gibson mandolin that's 100 years old, and I gave it to him when he was 16 after what's the place in Santa Monica with all the acoustic guitars? Pico. Anyway, somebody will probably write it and tell you.
Right.
But I had it fixed up, and literally, that's the amazing thing about kids staying on the internet. He took this mandolin and went to YouTube, and 45 minutes later, because he had talent, he came out playing like some Led Zeppelin parts. How do you do that? I hate you. Anyway.
Yep. It's 10:30, and that means our half-hour episode is done. Quite quick. So thanks for being with us. Unless you're willing to go into overtime. If you are, and I think our chatters wouldn't mind that either. Can you stick around for a little longer?
If there's people that have questions, I don't want to leave people hanging. I don't know if I'm being helpful, but
you are.
If there's a need for me to stay, I know I have till. I know I have a solid 30 minutes, but I have a hard out in 30 minutes.
Okay, great. So there are questions on the table here.
Okay.
So what we do in order to kick overtime is we're going to run our one and only ad on the show, and that's for Actor Trade, our sponsor. And then we're going to play a game called 5 Objects. So here is our ad for Actor Trade, and it's so good. It's so good. Enjoy.
I love you. I love you too. I can't imagine my life without you. So what did you think about that? Did you believe me when I said I love you?
I totally believed you.
Hey, wait, what's your name again?
Oh, it's Jim.
Jim. All right. Well, thanks for running lines with me, Jim. You rock. I'll see you later.
Yeah, totally. Anytime.
Yeah, baby. Actor Trade. What a great app. What a great app.
I love that. I met Dylan actually, I think, through Mark.
Yeah.
And he's an awesome dude. And I think unfortunately now with the pandemic more than ever, that's an app that really is going to be coming in handy now for many, many people.
All right, so here it is, 5 objects. I'm going to show you an object one at a time. You just give me your gut reaction, a short story, a thought.
Okay.
These are not long answers. These are very short answers. So here we go. First object, the old school telephone. It
just reminds me of my youth, my mother on the phone with coffee and a cigarette.
Yes, a coffee and a cigarette, of course. All right, this is a bottle opener with a little shaped like a mug.
a high school or college frat party. No, I never went to a frat party, but just a party. Like,
Okay, party. An onion.
Cooking.
Okay.
Like onion.
Yep. No answer's a wrong answer. A little
Okay.
Espresso maker.
A good cup of coffee.
Yeah, baby. And the last one, our fifth object, Stratego.
Game night.
Right on. Did you ever play Stratego?
A game I did not play. That was not one of them. I've heard of it, but did not play.
One of my favorites. All right, so we've got another question here. In this particular chat window, I can't see the name, so I'm sorry I'm not going to say your name, but the question is, how do you go about analyzing if an idea will work or not on the screen?
Good question. If it's just an idea, I believe, and listen, a great idea is a great idea, but I actually am one of these people who believes that great ideas, I don't want to say are a dime or a dozen, but there's a big difference between a great idea and then somebody who could take that idea and execute it, And so if I'm being presented with an idea and it's just an idea, the first question is, who is going to be the person executing it? And so if it's a great idea and it's somebody coming to pitch it to me that's a writer that I don't know, I need to read them first. And if I love the writing, I'm going to look at that pitch in one way. And if I'm not a huge fan of the writing and then I hear the idea, I'm going to be probably maybe a little less excited, or I might even say ahead of time, like, listen, I'm happy listening to this idea. I'm just not sure if you're the person I want to execute it. And if this is your baby, then maybe you don't even want to pitch it to me.
Gotcha. Great. Great. Another question. Keep your questions coming. We only have about 10, 15 minutes tops, and we want to make sure that you're satisfied, everybody. And we're getting great feedback in the chat also about your answers so far and the commercial.
Okay.
Queens World Film Festival. What advice can you give someone who had something crash and burn? How do you pick up and get going again?
Just one foot in front of the other. So, it happens to everybody and it happens all the time. And it's just that, like, you just got to get back on the horse. I've had a lot of losses, and you got to mourn them, you got to grieve them, and then you just got to move forward. And there's a story that I tell. There's nothing harder on a filmmaker where, and I tell this story, and just to keep this in mind. Many years ago, I represented a guy. His name was John Nicolella, a wonderful guy. He had come up with Michael Mann. He started as a transportation guy. He was this tough guy, and he then did Miami Vice, and then he was doing Nash Bridges. And probably about 15, 20, it's probably 20 years already, Universal hired him, and he directed a movie called Cole the Conqueror. And it was Kevin Sorbo, who I guess was Hercules, and it was their attempt on, launching their own Conan, Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of guy. And John went to Bratislava and he made this movie, and he made a good movie. And another client of mine, Don Mancini, who's the guy he was my client at the time, still a friend, who did all the Child's Play movies, was the writer, and had a lot of emotional stake in this movie. And unfortunately, the movie came out on Labor Day weekend, which is not a great weekend because it's a 3-day weekend, which is good, but it's the last weekend of the summer and people want to go to the beach.
Yeah.
And the movie did very, very poorly. And on that Monday, when we already knew what it was, and this guy was a seasoned veteran in the business, I called him that Monday and I said, John, why don't you come over with Patty and bring your kids and have dessert with us, or come for dinner? We'll just, and he was so depressed. I said, just come here, we'll cheer you up. And he said, I know what you're doing. I appreciate it. I just need to kind of process this. And I said, well, will you meet me for breakfast in a week? And we could, because I wasn't going to give up on this guy. I love this guy. And so a week later, he meets me for breakfast, where, and he was still kind of bummed. And I said, listen, a lot of people love you. And it's very hard, by the way, when your first feature movie tanks in a very public way. It's okay if you've had a few hits. It's okay if it's a small little movie that maybe doesn't make money, but it's got great reviews. But this was just not a small movie. It was very public, didn't get great reviews, and he was really bummed. But I actually really did believe he'd be able to go back into TV. He had plenty of options, and I was just trying to cheer him up. Anyway, he said to me, "Listen, I'm going to go bow hunting in New Mexico, and it's going to be me and my bow in the wilderness for like a week or two, and I'm going to come back, and I'll be ready to listen to you. But until then, I just got to go do my thing." And that was it. And I said, great. And I remember about 10 days later, his manager called me, and I said, what's going on? He's like, John's at Cedars-Sinai. I said, what? He's like, oh, he's having some stomach problems. And I said, oh, is it okay? He says, well, they're going to do some exploratory surgery tomorrow, and we'll see. And then what I found out was the next day that they discovered he had pancreatic cancer, and in 3 months he had passed away. And it was really tragic and really sad and just horrific. But the point is, it's like, what does a failure of a movie really mean when, and so the point to whoever asked that question is, the only thing that really matters in life right now is like our health. If you got your health, the sun's going to come out tomorrow. You just go out there and you just do it again. And there's nothing stopping any of us from going out and making something happen.
Beautiful. I'm going to direct you a little bit.
Okay.
Our answers are going to be shorter. So
okay. Sorry.
Questions. No, you're fine. No, we're in the home. It happens in the home stretch. It's not, your answers are fine.
Okay.
Your answers are awesome. It's just now we're in the home stretch. Julian White is with us. Jen Alloy is with us. Real good stuff. That's Scotty Clapson's podcast. Cliff Hillis is with us. Hey, Cliff. Heather Prescott, good to see you. All right, so where is it? There's a good one here. There's another one here. Here it is. How safe is it to pitch producers an idea without an NDA?
For me, or for anybody who's established in the business, we never think about it. We never worry about it because we know, and they know, if you're established in the business and somebody screws you, that everybody's gonna know. And so, yes, there's a risk in pitching a great idea to the wrong person when you're not established. But, fortune favors the bold. I say, if you're so protective of your ideas and you're never talking about it, you got to kiss a lot of frogs sometimes. So yeah. I would say take your idea, register it online with the Writers Guild as something. Keep a log when you go pitch to people. Write notes. Be specific who you pitch to, who you sent it to. Those kind of like any kind of proof that shows that you were there first in case it happens. But I think you're not going to get anywhere by just keeping it to yourself.
Absolutely. Renee Barella is with us. Amy Alt said, sorry about your friend. That was a very touching story. Michael Swiss K would like to know, for the aspiring writer, is it better to be in New York or LA?
Listen, if we're talking odds and we're talking in a normal non-pandemic world, being in LA, there are more producers, more studios, more buyers, more people to run into in line at Starbucks that, you could build a network with. So from a statistics standpoint, I think if you're just going on that, you would have to say LA. Right now, if you're in New York and there's a pandemic, stay there. And what I also say, the bottom line is once you reach a certain point in your career as a writer and you're here, you can live anywhere and do it.
Olga Balaban, good to see you. She's with us. Stacy Stalker wants to know, how useful is it to do reading services with producers in regards to them picking up your work?
So referring to like the blacklist, not the blacklist, but the blacklist sites and different things where you basically give them your script and they'll put the coverage up there and then they'll just distribute it for a fee. I I've got my hands full, so I don't really subscribe to them. Sometimes they send me things. It's not for me, but I can tell you the story or just say that I know some people and I know some young managers and agents that, have to dig deeper for emerging, talent. And they have, they've read log lines and requested scripts and have actually found clients that way. So it's not my thing, but there must, I'm sure it's working for some people.
What makes a great log line?
Short, sweet, and just very clear. It just kind of, well, first of all, you need a great idea or a great concept to be able to then have a great, the worst idea, no matter how good the log line is, I think it's still a bad idea. But just, short, sweet, right to the point, and something that just kind of makes it really clear, as succinctly as possible what the idea is.
Yeah, got it. Great. Somebody said I sent my biography to Alicia Source. Again, I don't have a name on that one, so sorry. It's kind of out of context.
Okay.
All right, here's a really important question I ask every guest toward the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to get really serious like this, but it's because we're in a pandemic and we're on Zoom. Are you wearing pants?
I'm wearing Adidas shorts.
So you're wearing shorts. All right. Oh yeah, there we go. Plaid underwear.
But I did put on a collar.
Yeah. Well, that's all that matters up here. I have
out of respect to you and your audience.
I love it. I should go back and look at the statistics and see how many people are wearing pants versus how many are in shorts, sweats, or underwear.
Right.
It's good. All right. Well, I think I got everybody's question in. So at this point, I ask my audience to just type in your thank yous, your kudos, and whatever else you'd like to say before we go, so I can relate them to Richard. There is a question. So while you're typing in your thank yous and whatnot, people, and your acknowledgments, I'll ask this question. What's the most number of times that you pitched one idea before it was sold?
I don't know, maybe 30, 40. I tend to, what I have found is, whether it's a script or an idea or a project, that when I go into the marketplace with it, it seems like everybody wants it or nobody wants it. So the easy ones are when you go and everybody wants it. That happens very quickly. And there are ones that I never really felt that strongly about, that when I get 20 quick no's, I tend to probably just kind of lay off. But every once in a while, I mean, certainly the journey to the destination was it. I think when Kathy and I, the night before we were going to set for the first time, when I got to South Africa, I think it was 17 years of just, it was a 17-year long odyssey to get that movie made. And by the way, every movie I produce, I'd say the average time from the moment I read the script to getting it made and being at Sundance for premieres, 7-8 years. It's hard.
Then how the heck did that?
But
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm gonna say, listen, it's hard, and I'm giving this, but I also I don't want to end on a Debbie Downer note. I actually have something that I would say, that I don't know if now's the end or whatever it is, so you can keep going. I want to leave with my final statement being more positive. That's all.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me though, what you're saying, it doesn't sound that negative. It just sounds so realistic. And what I was going to say was, where did that silly overnight an overnight success? Where did that phrase come from? Because every success that you look at is either sent 10 years, 12 years, 20 years, overnight success.
Right. Well, like Larry David is an example of that. Every movie I've ever made is an example of, like, everything just takes forever. But here's the thing that should give everybody hope is I was a witness. I don't know what year it was, but I had hired a young woman agent who had come out of publishing. She was working at the Gersh Agency in New York. She came to LA, a manager. She had come from the book business, but she was now doing screenwriters. And a manager had a young writer, a complete unknown woman who was an author, and she had written a manuscript of a year she had spent, working, she was in a relationship, but she became a stripper at an amateur night thing just for shits and giggles. And she wrote this book about the year she spent working at this club, and it was unpublished. And her manager didn't know how to do anything. And so the manager called up this young agent who worked for me, and she read it and she made a couple calls and the book sold. And it happened like that, And I think it was called Candy Girl, right? And they go, wow, that was easy. And then they said to her, why don't you write a script? And she said, okay. And 3 weeks later, she gave him a script. And they go, wow. And they sent that script out, and everybody's mind were blown. And it was, Brooke, who's nom de plume, whatever nom de plume was, Diablo Cody, within a year and a half of starting and being there, is up on the stage at the Academy Awards winning, best screenplay, best original screenplay for Juno. And then Spielberg meets her, and then she does, and look at that. So, I mean, and it happens,
Both versions are inspirational to me. The fact that the 17 years to make the film with Kathy, that's inspirational to me. You stay dedicated to something. All right, so we have some thank yous that I got to share with you. Carlos Martinez, welcome. You just joined us. Pamela Martell McNell, I didn't get to say hi. Olga Balaban says, thank you so much. Everyone, stay safe, healthy, and productive.
Thank you.
Dee Dee Rohn says, thank you so much. Uplifting, informative, and motivating.
Hey.
Dylan Mooney, thanks, Richard. It's a true honor having you here. Please come back. This has been so informative. Talaya Martinez, thank you so much for your time and info. It was great. Thank you so much for both sharing your time. Take care and stay healthy. That one, again, I don't see a name. Stacy, that's Stacy Stoker. Excuse me, Stacy Stocker. Michael Swiskay, thank you for your time and thoughts. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Galinsky. Zulima, thank you so much. This was very helpful. And Dorothy Edwards, who, by the way, I worked with in Los Angeles. She works with people experiencing homelessness. She's an amazing woman. Wrote great and informative show. Thank you, Richard and Robert.
Can I give a shout out to my charity that I sit on the board of, Food on Foot?
Yeah.
And just ask her, because Food on Foot.
Yeah.
Everybody go and look at foodonfoot.com. What we do, we feed the homeless in at the Gay and Lesbian Center in Hollywood every Sunday. But it's not about that. It's so we can engage with people who need help, and then we offer a program to get people off the street. So when I was in LA, I visited Food on Foot, and I love that you guys always emphasize it's about the conversation and the connection more so than it's about the food. Very true. Melanie McClellan is watching. Dorothy said, I'd love to write my story about homelessness in LA to the New York corporate boardroom. John Baskin, filmmaker, says, thank you, thank you. Heather Prescott says, thank you. Glad I caught this. It's important to share these thank yous with you, Richard, because you spent your time with us, and I want you to know that people really appreciate it. The last thing I'm going to ask you to do is, now that you know part of your audience, some of your audience, and you can feel some of that love coming back, what's your call to action for our audience tonight? My call to action, which is, I would just tell, the great thing is that we're living in a day and age where, like, there's this technology, like this iPhone levels the playing field. Now, in an ideal scenario, but the reality is, for every creator watching this, for every writer who just writes, they can sit down, they could write something. For every friend of theirs that's a filmmaker, that if they're not a director, they can meet a friend who's a director. If you, it's not that expensive to buy an HD camera. These things have amazing, the clarity. There's a word I'm looking for that's not coming to me, but resolution, lensing. Thank you. Resolution was the word. But the point is this: it's like if you come up, there's so many stories of people that are just like, people who haven't had their first break, who just come up with a great idea and they go and they make something and they post it on the internet, whether it's YouTube or Funny or Die or all sorts of other, or just their Facebook page that goes viral. And, I think the cream tends to rise to the top. And it's like, if you make something that's funny or is talented or just whatever, just something good, people like to share that. If you make somebody laugh or you make them cry or whatever, people want to share that with somebody. And when something goes viral, people want to know who had the talent to do that. And you'll get those meetings and it could lead to representation. So it's just like, just go and make it. Just go and do it. And every filmmaker that I've ever represented or spoken to, every director, and I bet you Spielberg or Scorsese would say that every single time they go onto set for the next time, they bring a level and a wealth of experience with them that they've learned from some other past mistake that they don't make on the next one. So the more you're out there shooting, the more you're out there writing, the more that you just got to go do it. It's like the Nike ad.
That is so key, what you just said. The mistake you made on the last one is something you won't do on the next one. It's so
yeah.
Beautiful.
You'll do better and better.
Spencer Morgan snuck in a thank you and he says, thank you for being of service. So thank you, Richard. Really appreciate it. We'll do this again sometime if you can spare.
I will come back if you'll have me and if you want me. And if I just want to, I'm very grateful and blessed for what I have. And if I could be helpful to somebody, I want to do that.
I almost forgot. You couple your clients nominated for Emmys. Yeah, can you tell us about that?
Yes. Just 2 clients. One is Amy Talkington, who was one of the EPs on Little Fires Everywhere. So that got nominated Best Series. The Hulu show. The bittersweet, sad part is the director, Lynn Shelton, who did the pilot and did the last episode that Amy wrote, had passed away a few months ago, way too young. And she was she was nominated today, Lynn Shelton, for Best Director for that episode that Amy wrote, the last episode. So that was bittersweet. And then we have a really talented young writer who is on Full Frontal, the Samantha Bee Show, who they got nominated. And so we're a little company to have 2 people get nominated for an Emmy. We're really proud and happy for them. Proud of our people.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive, and just, I would just say if you're down about something, just like that's the time if you're a writer, to start writing. Pick up your iPhone, put on a mask, walk around town, start taking pictures, just, call a friend, and let's just get through this together.
Awesome.
Okay? My pleasure. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
And the last thing we're going to do before I say goodbye is thank Actor Trade and run that really great ad one more time. Thank you for being with me tonight, everybody, and enjoy.
I love you.
I love you too. I can't imagine my life without you. So what did you think about that? Did you believe me when I said I love you?
I totally believed you.
Hey, wait, what's your name again?
Oh, it's Jim.
Jim. All right. Well, thanks for running lines with me, Jim. You rock. I'll see you later.
Yeah, totally. Anytime.
Thanks for being with me, everybody. And thank you, Actor Trade. Looking forward to the next show sometime next week. Peace, everybody.